It's a mystery. We're starting this thing early. Oh yeah, technically late. Who knows? It's such a mystery. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this into the valley of Supreme Rock. Boom. Hi, welcome. It's Saturday morning. That means it's Art of Rock every Saturday morning or night, depending on where you are on this fantastic planet we have called Earth. Join us. Art of Rock. Hello. Yes, my mic is working. It's good. This is brought to you by Angelspit's Patreon. If you got $3 a month, you can help keep me going. There it is, Angelspit's Patreon. Many of the people here are fantastic Patreon backers, and I am so grateful for your backermanship. I want you to go listen to something that's very cool. It's on Spotify. It's a track I did with Bête Noire called Tree of Blood. And it's very dark. And there's another one coming from Bête Noire very shortly, aka Grim Life of Hack. More stuff you need to know about on Spotify. Here's a bunch of bands that are here. Go listen to them. And stop heaping shit on Spotify. Stop. There are bands who are making their money from Spotify. Don't try and be pushing the public away from it. That is such a huge rant. Look, man, I get it. You hate it, but it ain't costing me nothing. And they're helping a lot of people out. If you want to see more stuff that ain't costing no one nothing, check out MTV TV. Bam! These guys, you need to support them. If you do a show or something, yeah, absolutely, man, buy their records. But if you can't afford to buy their records, just stream their music. It's not costing the artists anything. Yeah, buy their records off Bandcamp, who are charging you 15%, by the way. Do we want to have a bitch about Bandcamp sometime? No, yeah, please, let's do that. Let's fucking do 15%? Jesus! That's highway friggin' robbery. Apple takes 30%. I don't sell much stuff from Apple. MTV TV also have a amazing Bandcamp. Patreon. It's there. Jump on that. Do we want to talk about Patreon's fucking thing? Look, man, the greatest way to make money out of music is to make money out of the suckers that think they're going to make money out of music. Quote, Frank Zappa. That's the fucking truth. So here is your shit pie. Eat it. And be happy about it and keep making those fucking songs. Oh, wow, we haven't even started and Carl's on a rant. Okay, the mics are open. Tell me to shut the fuck up. Can I hear your beautiful voices go? Somebody had a question. Mark, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to get input from people about acoustic treatment for studio rooms. I'm gonna try and build some panels probably tomorrow, but I mean I'm open to other ideas or possibly cheaper options than going into like a hardware store and building them with like wood and insulation.
Can I ask you quickly, what are you using, what are you making them out
of? Wood and
foam?
Insulation. No, not foam. I think it's called like Rockford wool or something. It's some kind of insulation usually used for houses.
All right, cool. Razzie, hit us, baby.
Cool. The internet has a lot of solutions for this. There's so many good, easy ways to build panels that'll do the job, and tell you how to mount them in a way that'll maximize their efficacy for what you want to do. But there's two interesting angles on this. And the first one is knowing what you want to achieve and seeing if you achieved it. That's one thing. And then the second is, no, let's just leave it at that. The John L. Sayers Forum is traditionally the repository for all of the knowledge that everybody kicks around with this, which I think it went offline and then somebody archived it and presents it back on the web. So that there's like professional acousticians weighing in when amateurs say I want to build this, and if I'm not mistaken, it really does frequently come back to, well, did you measure and have you decided a plan for what you want to actually do? Usually people are like, I want to make my room sound better, and it's like, well, what you're doing won't reduce your nodes at this frequency, but those might not actually be a problem. And they get very specific and technical. So the software that they end up suggesting is Room EQ Wizard. You get a $50 omnidirectional calibrated or at least flat microphone, and you run some sweeps and you put the mic at your listening position and you say, okay, yeah, there's a long echo here, there's some resonant frequencies where I'm sitting, and those are what I want to kill. Or maybe there's a new position where I want to set up a mic because I'm going to be doing voiceover recordings, and I want it to be really dry right there. And you can check, for the specifics. Okay, the RT60 is 1.5 seconds. The reverb tail is 1.5 seconds long, and I want it to be 500 milliseconds. You can achieve that. You'll measure it before, you'll measure it after, you'll say, yes, I did achieve that. You'll use your ears and say, yes, I did. So I know it's a long preamble to, just go in and get some stuff and throw it up on the walls, and you'll probably be happier than without it. Mm-hmm. But there are some cool and not that difficult to do metrics to perform on the way in and after to see if you've done what you wanted. That was the first thing. The second thing is Roxul and Owens are the two big companies that make the 703 style flat, but not rigid, but I've lost the actual jargon and words for it over the years. But you can get like 1 inch or 2 inch. There's different depths and thicknesses and prices and stuff. One of the cool ways of doing it is get the insulation fits into some metal channel, and they just kind of go together. That way you can make a quick border by just bending channel around it, steel studs style. And then make sure you do cover it with some fabric. This is probably already on your radar.
Yeah.
Of course.
I don't want to be itchy.
There you go. But rock wool is mineral fiber is way less itchy prone than glass fiber. So you're probably going to be getting either the Roxul is, they're big on rock wool is their product. Mm-hmm. And I have used that in walls for sound transmission and also on walls for sound reflection control. And that's good stuff. But the Owens, there's debate about which exact spec to get of the Owens stuff. But if you're just throwing some stuff up on the walls, making 4 or 5 panels, putting them at places where you see your first reflections, like if you could see a reflection of your speaker there, that's where you put your stuff. Mm-hmm. Then you're most of the way into it. That's a lot, but there's always more. Any specifics that come to mind with my long rambling thing that we could maybe focus in on?
I guess I was more looking for if anyone has actually done this before, and is it just as simple as assembling the panels and then just putting them at reflection points, or is there some more nuance to it?
Yes, both. You will be happy just to knock down the reflections. I mean, I can hear your room. It's pretty lively and ambient, and although getting closer to the mic really just eliminates that stuff, and you don't excite the room as much, and the ratio between your voice to the reflected sound is
that's true, yeah.
greater. You can still, you hear that stuff, and if you want a neutral recording for VO work, where you're going to be adding reverbs and spaces and stuff to the final output, it's good to have not room sound. I've assembled them. It took me a weekend. I used the metal studs avenue because I've worked with metal studs before, and it just was easier for me. But if you have a saw all ready to go, or like a miter chop saw, then using wood is absolutely fine. You might go the corner angle irons, corner angles, wood connecting corner angles. I'm not a wood guy. Instead of trying to screw through the stuff, just to give it some rigidity, because moving them around is nice to be able to do, making it a little bit rugged for stuff. But yeah, I've built them. I just threw them at my first reflections where I used to have pyramid foam Sonics, and I don't know, it helped with the reflections and phasing I was getting in the place that I sit for listening to my my monitors. I also did the Room EQ Wizard and found a place for my speakers that had the least resonances and modes and stuff, and I've got them placed where they're the flattest they could be without like building anything or doing some crazy amount of rearranging stuff, and I was happy with that. I had more peaks before on the Room EQ Wizard graph, and I had less peaks after on the Room EQ Wizard graph. So both, yeah, you'll get there. Just throw them up at your first reflections. Awesome. You'll get more if you do some measuring and metrics before and after.
Okay, just for my clarity, it's one of those. You could probably get about 80% of the, I guess, good result by just putting out the first reflections, and then if you want the rest of it, you can invest the extra time and money into it, but you'll get a good result by just acoustic panels and key locations.
Yes, but for which purpose? Like if we're talking about listening position,
okay, yeah,
you'll do well with the killing first reflections.
Yeah.
For recording a professional VO that would be worthy of broadcast or radio or television narration, you're trying to get into like actual room design and like some serious critical stuff. But
yeah, I don't expect to create a professional studio with $100 in materials. Like, no, that's unrealistic.
So yeah, I mean, let's say you'll get part of the way there, just building a little tiny gobo setup around a person speaking into a mic, even if you're in a relatively ambient live room. You see it all the time. That works. So yeah. You're on the right path. But just having some of that other stuff, like look at the John L. Sayers discussions and look at some of what people have done. And if anybody says, here's a before and after, and you can actually A/B it, then listen to that just for some guideposts.
Could you type what that is, John L. Sayers?
Yep. I will put that in the... I haven't looked through this, but it's John L. Sayers' archive right now.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm dropping that into Twitch and into the chat here.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to shut up.
No, please don't. This is great. What you can do also, just drop it in the chat because I can throw it into Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Cool. Hey, man, thank you so much. This is such a great question. My advice would be you're dealing with physics, so you want to get as much mathematics going as possible. And, Rezi, you talked about that software. Definitely utilize that software. Secondly, I think that the best recording area you're going to find is your wardrobe. So if you can stick a mic in your wardrobe, do it. If you've got one of those round shield things, put the round shield with the wardrobe behind you.
With clothes still inside. With
clothes inside. It's the deadest of dead rooms. And that's why I have my wardrobe right there. It's because I've tried all this stuff, but my problem is space, and my problem is posters are very reflective sonically, and I have to make a decision as to whether I want to be looking at a bat or a poster, and for me it's a poster. And it's just a pain in the dick for me to be taking them down. I've also noticed that the main amount of problems I get is my ceiling and my floor. So if you can put a rug on the floor, and if there's any way you could put stuff on the ceiling, that would be great. This curtain here cuts out a lot of stuff, but behind that I've got a whole bunch of merch anyway that's mainly material. But yeah. So I'm going to second... Hold on, what's this? Here's another good one. Thank you very much. Wow, look at all this stuff. Okay, here's some really great stuff that's being chucked into the chat here. Here's some great links. Jump on that stuff, man. I'm going to shut up. Alex, what you got?
Wait, just before you move on.
Shoot.
When you say wardrobe, please describe what you mean.
A wardrobe closet. What do you call it? A closet with clothes in it in American?
Clothes closet.
Yeah, it's a clothes closet.
A clothes closet. So you don't use the word wardrobe.
Wardrobe refers to the selections from what comes out of a clothes closet in...
Wow.
That or like an actual separate piece of furniture that you open up and you hang clothes in.
All right. Then a clothes closet for my
Okay, I
friends
just
in
wanted to make
America.
sure that you didn't
Of
have
course.
like
Oh,
actual...
doesn't really matter. However you want to do it is how you do it. In fact, if you've got something with doors on it, throw a big thick rug over the doors because that mirror wants to reflect hardcore. That's it. That's everything I've got. A closet. Then what do you call the thing you put brooms in? Oh, a broom closet. So many countries, so many different ways of saying things. Is it a bubbler? I don't know.
What?
A bubbler.
You're from Rehoboth?
Well, luckily Alex is next.
Yes, it's a bubbler. It is a bubbler.
There it is.
It refers to the bubbler valve, which was invented down the street from here.
Of course, everything was invented in Wisconsin. Thank you, Ivan. Alex, is it pop or is it soda? Or is it soft drink?
Soft drink, obviously.
It is soft drink. Thank you, Alex.
Anyway, yeah, alternative to the closet is just using a blanket over the head. It isn't elegant, but it works, and allegedly that's how the first Rammstein demos started. They had they were in the homes, and Till recorded his vocals with a blanket over his head. Yeah, and PSA don't use egg cartons because they don't get the desired effect. They can get mold and they can burn, so they are they're hazardous and don't work properly. So keep that in mind.
Yes. Brilliant. Thank you, man. Ivan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, definitely don't forget the floor and ceiling. Sound doesn't do. It doesn't move just linearly. It expands like a sphere. Yes. It's like, so keep in mind that it's gonna do that, and also it'll slip through anything that air can go through. Only even more so. We were putting the studio up on 3rd floor, and green glue is expensive. Anything to do with green glue is expensive, but it is an expense well worth making, because I'm not worrying about just killing reflections, but I'm trying to deaden prevent the inside of the room ending up outside the room as much as possible, and also keep a lot of the outside from getting onto the inside.
Yeah. Sirens, helicopters, and tweeting birds. Thank you, Ivan. Did I cut you off, or are you done?
There was something else.
Please go.
Yeah, I can't remember now. I'll re-raise when it comes.
Thank you. Just before I throw it to you, Razzie, I know it's important. If anybody says pop, soft drink pop, they call it pop. Please let me know, and I'm going to abuse you. Really, Kerry? You call it pop?
Tasty beverage.
No, it's bubbly. Twat. Who the fuck calls it pop?
It's pop.
No, it's not. It's not pop. It's not.
It is pop in the north.
It was tonic. They referred everything to tonic, and then in Missouri they're like sody, and I'm like, it's pop.
What?
Yeah, well, don't talk about fucking Missouri.
Sarsaparilla?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not about music, but on this note, you know what's terrible? In the South, it's Coke. Everything is Coke.
What kind of Coke do you want? A Sprite?
Yeah.
Yeah. A Fanta?
No.
Pepsi?
Yeah.
I haven't had a good sarsaparilla in a long time. I'll just say. I want to throw it to... Razzie, you were going to speak, and I was just...
I lost what I had a minute ago, but
it was going to be good. Sorry.
It was probably just the fact that it's nice that we're talking about acoustic treatment for reflections rather than acoustic isolation for transmission, which Ivan alluded to. That is impossible to difficult to impossible, whereas what we're talking about is pretty possible even on a small budget. You can't do isolation.
Isolation's only possible if you're starting in a fresh space.
Yeah, or you have a really big room. I mean, alternatively,
or a massive budget.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you're gonna need one of those anyways.
Yeah.
Hey, everything useful was invented in Milwaukee. Most of the power tools you take for granted would not exist if it wasn't for bored machinists in their garages back in the 20s who were like, hey, this probably won't electrocute somebody much. But they'll
Fair
be able to
enough.
drill a hole in a wall.
The other thing I wanted to just allude to is the acoustic panels that I dropped into the chat were strictly for you, Carl. They have pictures on them. You can do your own graphics. So it's like kills that reflective posters versus absorptive acoustic panel.
Well, thank you very much.
There you go.
Damn, that's great. Alex.
So a sentiment I've also heard is that you don't want to completely kill all reflections in your room, because then it sounds unnatural in the other direction. So there's like a sweet spot how much acoustic treatment you add. I just wanted to throw it in there.
Excellent. Wow. Okay. This has been really good. And Rezi, I see your hand. Go.
We are still talking about three different things: the transmission control, the acoustic space ideal for listening to mixes and mixing, and then voiceover stuff. And just to tilt it back to voiceover, a dead acoustically non-reflective anechoic space is not bad for doing VO. You can really absolutely 100% add that stuff back into taste. There's no shortage of good reverberant small spaces to simulate. That's fine. Although yes, for monitoring and mixing, a dead space, or even for performing or jamming with people or talking, a dead space would be horrible. It'd be woolly and intelligibility would drop off. But for doing voiceover, some of these small ISO booths, you don't want to hear walls that are only 2 feet away. You don't want to hear that. So having them be treated and dead is, not unusual. So, yeah, it's a lot to juggle, the different cross purposes we're sort of talking about. But for VO, neutral to dead is not the worst thing in the world. It can be acceptable or desirable.
Good stuff.
For third floor, I've been planning to put the flooring is going to be cork, because it's more green, and actually the cork I found is beautiful, but the dB reduction from it is also quite good. I'm not sure how good it is on reflection. Gonna find out the hard way.
There should be material specs for acoustic transmission loss for it. I bet it should be.
Yeah, mostly they talk about the how much it'll block.
It's gonna be like 3 dB at mid-range.
Good fun. This is great. If anybody else wants to throw in on this topic, let's do it. Otherwise, we could move on to another topic. Yep, I see your beautiful hand.
I've had a very difficult time communicating when I want plain carbonated water from the tap thing. So if we could go back to that and really beat it to death.
Do you say still water? How do you say, you go into a bar and you gotta tip them? Tap water.
Fizzy water, bubbles, please. Acqua minerale con gaso. Seltzer, club soda. Just plain. But I'll say, I don't need it from a bottle. I don't need Perrier or. Anyway.
It's a funny thing. Well, that's part of my whole rant that America is such a hugely diverse country with so many different accents and so many different little tiny bits going on, different senses of humor, different ways of saying things. I think it's the sort of thing you need to go, how do they say that in Wisconsin? How do they say that in
3,000 miles wide, and every group that came here brought its own version of misuse of language.
And God. Yes. But no, that's the problems that we face. Other problems we face is ambient music. Rezi, would you like to dive head on into the question of ambient things?
I've approached doing, non-vocal, chord progression, melodic kind of stuff with, pop song structure mindset. I'm still trying to find what the hook and the chorus is in these things. And I know that there's probably a lot of other completely unrelated to the, rock and popular music idiom ways of approaching this. And, I'm a little bit short on my Eno, and I'm wondering, does anybody have some like guideposts for how to get through a long ambient piece that aren't, well, it builds and then it's the end, or there's that kind of thing? What are some other approaches that are just really maybe something inventive for you or inspirational from somebody else?
Thank you. When you say long, what do you mean?
Anything over 3 minutes.
Okay.
For me would be a longer piece, but like a 10-minute piece like Sun, or that kind of duration.
All right. When I tackle Ice Planet 9000 stuff, incidentally, Ice Planet 9000 has a new single and video coming out on the 6th. And Diana, I emailed you about getting my video on MTV TV. All you have to do is email MTV TV. Hold on, I'm doing a spiel. Segue. And they'll play your video as they'll play my video. Diana, I'm just looking for it right now. Did you get my email, Diana? Because you haven't... Oh, well, I only sent it the other day, yesterday. Here it comes. This is so important. Okay, boom, MTV TV. Woohoo! Email them right there, and they'll play your video, as they will hopefully be playing my video, which goes for 6 minutes. Anyway, I think of ambient music like it's a journey. And if I'm doing a freestyle ambient thing, I can easily go for half an hour or an hour. How I keep an audience engaged for that much time, engaged, I don't know. I can keep people engaged for 10 minutes. I like to go for an hour or so and then go, oh, that's cool, make notes, chunk, boom. It's a journey. And in that journey, I am going from somewhere to somewhere else. There was a joke there that could have been made about a boy on a train headed to Detroit. Journey? Okay, thanks. Don't Stop Believing. I hate that song. Fucking great song. Great song. But I hate it.
Still hate it.
I hate it. Brilliant song. Hate it. Really good song. But I'll try and go, okay, where is this thing going? Something happens. It's more like a soundtrack for me. A dude is floating through space, and then they get the alert that there's a planetoid. I'm going to head towards that planetoid, says dude in spaceship. What? It's got ice boulders around it? Oh, here come the ice boulders, and stuff's happening as I get closer to the planet. Now I've detected gravity. Okay, cool. Now I've detected life. There you go. And so you've got 10 minutes to say it, or half an hour, or 3 minutes, or 4 minutes, or whatever it is. I often have an A-B-A structure, but I will... An outro on the B structure, kind of, or B is changed a bit and becomes C. Because I try and do that. But then, I listen to bloody Steve Reich, and he goes for days. Or a lot of this new ambient drone stuff, which I'm still trying to do, and I still can't do it, because it bores the fuck out of me. I love listening to it. I cannot do that shit. And then I watch YouTube videos and it's like, dude, this isn't fun. This is mathematics. I don't want mathematics. I want to make crazy music. But that's just me. But yet I'll listen to it going, this is great. Anyway, so that's my thoughts. As far as the use of synthesizers go, try and keep it simple. This is something I never do in my life, ever. I will get as complicated as I possibly can, but the problem is when you've got a lot of things that are long sounds, now you're building all of this harmonic content, and you have to be really aware of the buildup of bass and tops and certain frequencies. So you might say, okay, well, the space has this sound, space, and then as I move towards the planet, there's going to be a new sound coming in. But then when I move towards the asteroids start around the ring of asteroids around the planet. I'm going to pull space back, and up comes the asteroids. That's it. And I could crap on for hours, but I'm not going to, because I want to hear what Alex has to say.
So I'm in no way a pro, but my approach is to just have a system which can be a monosynth, maybe a polyphonic synth and a looping pedal, or something like that, and learn which nuances I can tweak in order to change the soundscape. and then just improvise slowly and try to really nail in the change from one sound to the other. Like, how do I turn this knob? Which curve should be the best, and to be just intuitively. Yeah, and to try to change it very smoothly. My only problem is I don't know how to stop, because I'm then at the climax and don't know how to get back down. That's my biggest problem with ambient.
I can make a suggestion about that, but first I want to hear from Ivan.
Oh yeah. You listen to some of the, actually, it's useful to listen to some of the true masters. I mean, Brian Eno for sure.
Show me Shosha.
Yeah, don't feel bad about throwing on some Riichi Sakamoto.
Tangerine Dream.
He knows what he's doing. And like David Sylvian's entire like Gone to Earth album is mostly without vocals, and every song is sort of telling a story.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. So this is also really interesting, is telling a story that, when you get to the end of story, you can just end it. Finish on that note and then let everything dissipate into reverb. There you go. Yeah, and Bowie as well. Thank you. I'm reading some of the comments going on. Rez, go.
One of the things that we didn't touch on in that graphical music scores as your guiding, roadmap. Well, musical score. There's kind of a good history of things that don't necessarily look like musical staffs, and letting that be either a collaborative effort or you as the composer, freehanding it. I have had at least one, maybe two or three really good experiences where an artist did the score. We did verbal communication to arrive at the story per se, and she did the graphical representation of it, and then me and another musician followed the score to do the performance, and it was really fun, like super successful by most measures as far as being satisfying. I have no idea if it was listenable in the end, but I just landed on a couple of search things for graphical music scores and was reminded of that.
That's awesome. So I'm going to bring it back to that thing that I like to talk about, which is having fun. You might get a piece of paper, and you might get some coloring pencils, and you might start drawing pictures, and they might be abstract pictures or whatever. Then what you might do is get a coin and drop it on the paper. Here's Rose. Drop it on the paper so that where it falls on that paper is going to suggest a sound and a hey Rose, and a path to the journey that you're taking. Or you might do it linearly, or you might do it non-linearly. And you might divide that square up into 6 different parts, and each part's going to go for about a minute or for as long as until you get bored with it. And you might just move through it. Have fun, draw a roadmap, and always be open to randomness. And have really good reverb. And distortion, then reverb is something that people love. And something else I personally love is reverb, then distortion. Because you get some lovely, really, really lovely tones when you distort reverb. Reverb, compress it a bit if you want, then distort it. After this, I would love to touch on generative stuff with modular synthesis, be they software or hardware, because that's good fun, because Razzie, you did bring that up briefly before. But here's Alex.
If you want a graphic way of interacting with ambient music, there is an app and I think also software called Virtual ANS. It's ANS, and there you can draw your spectrogram and then it plays it back. The app is a bit difficult to get into, but I think you have to just read some portions of the manual and then you can start. And it's really interesting. And they have like
Read the manual?
different. Yeah, I think
Sorry, go
at
on.
least I had to figure stuff out. I think I never read the manual fully, but I wish I did because it took me a very long time to understand certain concepts.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you very much, Raz.
This actually bridges pretty nicely into randomized composition techniques. But also, you mentioned distortion into reverb for long ambient stuff, and we haven't mentioned it yet, but Paul Stretch, the algorithmic FFT infinite stretcher, is... I mean, it's got a sound, and it's like, you know, depending on what you put in, you can get some variety out of it, but it's kind of right up that, like, if you want to make a 2-second thing with some texture into a 5-minute piece, you could just flip that switch and you know, have something that's satisfying and interesting to listen to, and generated purely algorithmically without much of your input piece beyond the seed, which leads us into hopefully making... my note was aleatoric composition techniques without hardware, but I didn't know what I meant by that. Carl, you brought it back to the flipping a coin and drawing the squares, and that also brings to mind the oblique strategies cards or some sort of exquisite corpse kind of experiments, and there may be like a whole lot to really think about external techniques for imposing on your direction in music that aren't computers.
That's brilliant. I have a friend who got Oblique Strategy Edition 1 at a garage sale for $50. Yeah, he could sell it and buy a house. Just saying. Anyway, this is great. This is a really excellent conversation. Pencils and papers and dice and all of that stuff. Like, I mean, if you're bored, research... let the blood, let the blood, let the blood, let the blood, let the blood come out, let the blood come out, let the blood. Steve Reich? Steve Reich. Yeah. Delia, obviously, because we have to say Delia Derbyshire every show. And Wendy Carlos. We also have to say Wendy Carlos every show. Fleetwood Mac, just because we have to say Fleetwood Mac, but they have nothing to do with this at all.
Krista McVie, rest in peace.
I know. It's been a week. Thank you. I'm just going to take this oblique strategies here. Hold on. I just lost my train of thought because I was being an idiot. Okay, welcome back. My thing, an area of great interest is modular synthesis and what you can do with modular synthesis and going random on modular synthesis. Like, having a sequencer. I mean, like, a lot of this stuff is all available via software. You can get all Dover stuff on software now, apparently, as well. You have a sequencer, and what that sequencer is doing is... the cool thing about a Dover sequencer, the A155, is you can randomly start you can start the start point randomly, and the end point can be random as well. So instead of it being 8 steps, it can be starting on step 3 and ending on step 6. Then it's gonna da-da-da-da-da. You get the gist. By feeding it, random voltages and stuff. Do it very slowly, and do it very slowly over time. So the first thing you're actually going to need is like 2 or 3 different randomizers. And having something that's a random trigger is great as well. The dope for A188? Hold on, source of uncertainty. What is it? The 149-1 and -2, they're great because not only are they generating 2 independent random voltages based on random trig inputs, random clocks, but they're also generating a random trig output that's based on one of them. So if you're saying, send me random 16ths, then it will send these 8 little channels up to send you a 16th whenever it damn well feels like it. And that's great. What you can then say is, well, instead of it being 16ths, I'm going to send you 2 bars. So every 2 bars, it's going to change. One of those random signals is going to be changing the length of the sequence, and it's also going to be clocking forward, going to the next step, depending on when that jump is. Point is setting up as much randomness as you possibly can. Then you might set up those notes on the sequence to be pentatonic or not notes at all. Something completely different. Something else mind-blowingly fantastic about the Dope for A155 is that you can put 8 different audio inputs into it on each clock point, on each step point, and as it goes to that step, it will play whatever audio is coming into it. Then it will play to the next one, and that's amazing because you can have all of this sound and shit going on. I could keep going on this, but I want to hear what Alex has to say. I'm going to leave my hand up because I'm going to keep going after Alex. Go!
Something really fun and chaotic can also be to have several delays and have them feedback into each other, especially if they're really long. Can be very chaotic. And also, I've set up on my Octatrack that you can basically sequence where it samples. And I did that, it sampled itself and then repitched itself and sampled itself another time, and that gave also a really nice chaotic machine that basically made bleeps and blobs from other material.
That's really cool. I'm just Wolf Raven. I'm loving. What's this link here? Oh, this is the stretch thing. Thank you.
Yeah, I just sent the Paul Stretch.
Boom. I'll throw that in here. That's Paul Stretch. Yeah, so it's really interesting that there's also this balance between ambient music of, okay, Jean-Michel Jarre, I wrote this down because Jarre's one of my fucking heroes, said noise, sound, and melody. They're the 3 things that define him as an artist. Noise, sound, melody. Finding the balance between those 3 things, like how important is the noise? How much white noise am I going to have in this? How important is the melody? What are the sonic textures? What are the noise? And for me, everything goes back to Oxygen because it was such a brilliant album. Still brilliant album. And when you listen to the amount of sounds that are being used in each track because of the limitations that were there, it's not a whole bunch of shit going on. It's simple, smooth stuff where the noise and hum has been hidden, masked with a little synthy going whoosh every now and then. But it comes down to what you want to play with, the building blocks around you that you can be using to make this stuff happen, and also the importance of noise versus melody. Another really fun thing doing in ambient music is, okay, so you might have a motif that goes for 4 bars. Well, what you might do is you just might leave a bar at the end. So it actually goes for 5 bars. Doing the thing that Glass did, that where it's like, well, here's a motif that's 4 bars, here's one that's 5 bars, now I'm going to play them together and they're going to start interlapping. That sort of, even if it's a fast arpeggiator, it's the best fun. I just actually got a ratchet thing last week for doing the Tangerine Dream ratcheting. And it's really fun because, you know, you might have an arpeggiator that's going dot 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 dot. Well, the ratchet's going to go dot 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 dot. It's going to randomly, if you allow it to be random, it's going to say, well, instead of it being an 8th, now it's a 16th, now it's a 32nd, now it's a 16th, now it's an 8th. It's an 8th again, 32nd, 8th, 16th, 8th. It's going to be cycling through these things. And that's really cool fun. And if you don't have a ratcheting thing, there's all of these different things. Okay, here's a fun thing you could do. Set up if you've got a maths or something, set up an attack decay and loop it. So it's going to be looping. But what you're going to do is you're going to be sending one of those random CV voltages to the tail end, the length of the tail, or the length of the attack. So that depending if the tail is longer, then that envelope is going to be longer, then the loop time is going to be longer. So you can start getting some really lovely noises and stuff. All of this beautiful randomization shit. You might have this arpeggiator pattern that I was talking about. One arpeggiator, they're all both in 16ths. One is 16 long, aka a bar. One is 15. So they're starting to lock over itself. What you're going to do is you're going to get two of these random doobies that I just talked about, the two envelopes that are randomly moving up, or two LFOs that are being randomly time changed, or one of them that is constant, one of being randomly, ever so slightly being randomly changed. And what you're going to be doing is taking the 16 up line little arpeggiator, the 15 little arpeggiator. This one's going to go into this LFO, so it's opening and closing constantly, normally. And this one here is going to be going into the LFO that's being ever so slightly modulated. So this one might, take 2 bars to come up and come down. This one might be 2.5. Now it's 3 bars. Now it's 8 bars. Now it's 1 bar. That sort of thing that's creating this really nice shift. Constantly moving, constantly, just constantly going. But it comes down, and this is getting into what I call bleep bloop, which is great fun to make, but not many people like listening to bleep bloop. And if you want to do bleep bloop, that's great. It's excellent therapy and it's good fun. But if you want to be doing stuff that people are going to be more engaged in, and there's an asterisk here that says Carl doesn't know what he's talking about right now. Carl's talking shit and he's talking his mouth off. I should say that some people want to hear melody and stuff. Some people want to hear a musical thing. Then go back to your storyline where you're in a spaceship moving towards a planet. But there's a whole bunch of people who don't want that shit. They just want to lie in bed and hear oceans of synthesizers knock against the waves of eternity. Do you like that? Kerry, I always love what you hear. I'm going to put my hand down. What you say. I'm going to put my hand down. Go.
Just wanted to go to talk back on what you were just talking about with the bleep loops and doing different things. That if you have somebody that's trying to drum live with you while you're doing that or play along, it's hell on them when you're doing that stuff. And it's frustrating for them, but it's fun to do, but it's hard for them to work beats out and tempos on their stuff.
This is a really lovely point, and I want to come back to this, and I know Rezi wants to talk about this as well. Alex, what you got?
I hope you didn't mention it before, but a fun thing also is if you have a sampler and can change the beat or the slice you start the sample at, or the position. To randomize that can also be fun. And also be very musical.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a drum loop or something like that.
Yeah. Or a big lovely orchestral sample or something like that that's got lots of distortion and reverb on it. This is wonderful. I'm being challenged. Okay, so this is a wonderful thing about acoustic music, ambient music, is people always go ambient music, synthesizers, get acoustic stuff in the mix. Get your hands on stuff. If it's a little prayer bowl, if it's a marble being swished around in the bottom of a salad bowl, if it's plucking a string, if it's something, if it's a recorder, or what do you call these things in the US? Are they recorders? You call them? I just had to make sure that they weren't called a bubbler phone or something like that. Or a pop blower. Get experimental and have fun, and don't block up all your frequencies with stuff, because leave space and have a moment of silence. Rez.
It's interesting you made the distinction this late in the discussion between acoustic sources and electronic sources, which maybe it's an unnecessary distinction, but maybe it's also the entire distinction. But I was totally thinking non-synthesizer sources in the ambient composition that I was modeling when I posed the question. And one of my other sort of things that I wanted to bring up is like, where do you get your noise sources from as your kernels for expanding unrecognizably? rather than just white noise, pink noise generators. Putting a pin in that, I know you want to jump in. I've been listening to, for the past 6 months, reorienting my ear toward found sound. You'd call it experimental, non-song based, concrete kind of compositions that have been satisfying beyond what I would have expected from that stuff. It's just never turned me on in the past, but I've found a few artists that are really doing it for me right now. So that was the angle.
Okay, I would like to throw the floor open and the chats and stuff. Let's talk about creating ambient music not with synthesizers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this, because this is really exciting. So does anybody want to throw in experimentation, anything at all? What you got? Alex, talk to me.
So your biggest hurdle, of course, is that not every instrument can sustain a sound, because some are just plucky and stringy, and you can sometimes get around that with like big reverbs, and maybe also if you use something like an EBow. But yeah, I think that's the biggest hurdle, and yeah, I naturally would gravitate towards like a stringed instrument, because that was what I grew up playing. And I think I had another point, but
Thank you. I've got some thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts first, Mark.
So I didn't actually use it for anything because I didn't feel like actually going through it and making sure, but what I did do is I left a microphone in the room next to my roommate's room while he was playing like some online game, being very angry and very loud about it. So it's really muffled and you can't really make out exactly what he's saying. It's mostly reactions. And I also recorded one of my work meetings. Once again, I didn't check that. I have to make sure there's nothing, secure about that, because technically I can receive classified information, but I don't think we have any of that in that meeting. But like, there's an idea, just if you can, in a ethical way, record a muffled conversation.
And make sure they're talking about aliens.
Yeah.
Excellent. This is what's commonly referred to, specifically on the planet Earth, as a coin. Now, whether this is a soft coin, a bubble coin, a pop coin, I'm going to leave that up to your different areas. But the wonderful thing about a coin is you can get a plate. I'm not talking about a plate reverb, I'm talking about a plate that you eat from. And you simply run the coin, or a bowl, or a wok, or a saucepan or something. Set up the mic somewhere and just run it around. Even more fun, put water in the wok. Just run around, constantly run it around. Hitting it like this is not good because it's a loud sound. But we want that gentle, scrapey sound. Then you might go and find the frequencies that are ugly, and you're going to get rid of them. And you might throw a big delay that way and a big delay that way. So that's a great place to start for a drone. You might also, for example, my God, I love a piano. And if you can ever get your hands on a piano, make sure you bang that thing. I've talked before about holding the sustain open, holding down chords and screaming into the top of it. Yeah, or banging it. Use it as a great big spring reverb. You can get some lovely sounds out of those things. There's so many different things. There's 2 ideas from Carl, and I could also go down the rabbit hole. I've talked about it before, the pieces of shit that I make. The weird fucking synthy things. I didn't know you had a baby grand. That's good, that's good. I'm jealous. You've got a grand as well? Am I the only person here? Do you call it a pop grand or a soft grand?
No, I call it a Yamaha CP70 because it's an electric grand.
Wow. That's great. So it's a bubbler grand.
Yep, soda grand.
That's good. Alex, would you like to tell me about your soft grants?
Unfortunately, I don't have any pianos, but I think delays again can really help you. For example, with my voice, I would use very long delays with high feedback options to just use it like a looper to create a soundscape just with my voice or maybe an instrument. And the other thing is also with your voice, but any other instrument, having really short delays. This can help you to achieve a sort of chorusing effect, because your voice on maybe a stringed instrument won't be on pitch all the time. So you naturally get this like really thick chorus that can be really interesting, and it sounds very special without you having to put in much. You don't need a real chorus, you just need yourself and this short delay. It can really make things big.
I love it. Of course I forgot to say use your voice, because it's fun. Build an instrument. We'll get onto that after Kerry. Go.
I like to go like old school industrial style from the 80s, and you know how they would sample like politicians or evangelists, but I go on to like conspiracy theory sites and record clips off of that, and then take it and add filters and mix it up.
That's excellent. Especially the guy. Who's the guy who says aliens all the time?
I don't know.
He's got a Greek name. Beautiful Greek name. What's his name?
I don't know.
I
go to I do a lot off of recording off of Max. Was it Egan? He's an Australian. Because he's always doing videos, so I can get good sound clips off of his stuff.
Yes. I'm not going to try and say Giorgio Tescolas. I abused his name. I want to
Google it.
Yeah, no, we need to have a con for him. Like everybody goes as the con. The con is him. Would be just fantastic. Because they have Dude Fest here. Anyway, where everybody goes is dude.
Oh yeah.
And we're drinking their White Russians. That's excellent. Alexi, a really fun thing to do is go, okay, well, if I was going to make this ambient track in 1876, how would I do that? Think about it. How would you do it? And then obviously as the track progresses, you're going to add whiz-bang modern things. But think about that. Because, like, you know, it's fun to say, well, I'm going to do the track like it's 1986 or 84. And that's fun. I'm all about that. But how would you do if it was 1965? And that means you've got to research what was around and what you can do. And this is, you know, this goes, oh, well, but that's a waste of time. Why? But it's a waste of time because it's a good waste of time because it's educational. It's trying something new, it's fun, and it's going to make you really appreciate your gear, and it's probably also going to push you to use things a little differently. And you might say, well, I'll find a soft emulator of a tape machine. Cool, do that. Fuck around. It's fun. Alex.
I can tell you how I would do it in 1886.
How would you do it in
I would get a
1886?
really big church and several singers and instrumentalists, then have a certain system of telling them which pitch to sing, and maybe some gestures and something like that. That would be my approach in 1886.
But there's one problem with that approach. They'd burn you as a witch. Because you do that shit in the church. And we'd all turn up in our Satan and Cats t-shirts. Come on. But that's maybe it would be a cave or somewhere safe. And we'd have a fire and a cauldron and chanting. And to keep it acoustically safe, we'd be wearing black robes. And then we let the villagers come to us. But that is a really good idea. So a question is there a tunnel close to you? Extra points if there's if it's anywhere near a train. Because if you set up there used to be this tunnel in Newtown in Australia where I lived, and it went right under the train tracks. And the thump that would happen when the train went overhead was they called it Piss Alley. Big hi to everybody in Sydney who knows where Piss Alley is. And it would the sound of it was just beautiful, really gritty shit, mate. And you just set it up in there and set up a microphone and boom, absolutely stunning. Or you know, go to like a train station or somewhere where there's a whole bunch of tiled floor with a whole bunch of people. Set up the mic way down the end and just get that ambience of people. I don't know. You're not going to get burnt. That's what I'm saying. They're not going to like say witch and burn you. Nothing? Okay. Does anybody else want to throw in anything else? Ideally, if you were going to do this, if you could travel through hot time like Doctor Who, what era would it be and what technology would you use? Alex, what you got?
I would have two other topics. One is like really involved but more important, and the other one is a bit fun but more light.
I'm into topics.
So my first topic would be, if you're a hobbyist or a professional, it doesn't matter. If you have money for your project, how do you allocate it? How much do you put into gear? How much do you put into advertising? How much do you put into improving your skill? Does anyone have like a system how to decide?
It's supposed to be 50% goes into publicity. But it usually ends up being 25 or 10%. I would highly recommend that you put 25% into publicity, at least. It's so easy to just go, I'm going to buy more gear, and then everything's gone. But I say try not to do that. As far as recording goes, if you can do everything that sounds professional, do it. I highly recommend you get someone to master your stuff, because you might be an okay engineer, but when it comes to mastering, really, so many people just stick it in Isotope and they go, there you go. That's the mastering argument. I really couldn't be fucked having it. I just think I go on about mastering because I know so many people who are mastering and I really like them and I want to help them. I want to support them. So give them money. And advertising. That's what I think. That's what I normally do. Oh, artwork. Wow. Quarter goes into artwork. And are we also pressing a CD here? Okay. You're going to spend money on your artwork. You're going to do photo shoots. You're going to do all that stuff because it's very, very, very extremely, incredibly important. It is the box that it is in. It is the wrapping. And they're not going to see what's inside that box unless the box is entertaining and interesting to them and they want to rip it out of its paper. So you got to work on that box.
Are photo shoots part of publicity, or is it another slice?
I personally call it a different slice. I call it artwork slice. Publicity is going, hey everybody, this thing exists. And I will spend maybe 10 to 25% on the artwork. I cannot stress how important artwork is. And people go, it's all about the music. People who say that, I always say, look at the boots they're wearing and the clothes they're wearing and look at the CDs in their record collection, and it's not. It's about that visuals. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Alex, I cut you off.
I just wanted to say, obviously it's the thing they see your artwork before they listen to your music usually.
Yes.
So it's the first door of entry.
Yeah, and remember that artwork is usually 50 pixels by 50 pixels, so make sure it's clear and make sure it's big so that people, even at 50 by 50, they can tell, oh, that's interesting, click. That's what I think anyway. Rez, what are you in?
I don't know, man. Let's like, when it comes right down to it, you got your needs met, your Maslow's shit and shelter, and you've got your savings for the future met. And then, like, unless you please yell at me for this attitude, really have your entire ROI budget for the future and 5-10 years worth of projects figured out and what you're expecting and shooting for, like, fuck, just what does it really matter what you spend it on? I mean, you're gonna need some gear, you're gonna need to release some stuff, and you're gonna spend everything you've got except for the safety net and needs on your obsession and hobby and passion, and some of it's fun and some of it's not fun, but as things rise to prominence, I mean, it's a terrible way to go about it, and you'll never like actually make progress doing it with this way. But joking aside, like, without like a solid future business plan and like some expectations of what you hope to be making, it's really hard to set like what your budget should be anyhow. And I know some of us have reached levels where you do have an anticipated income stream from certain things, and you can start making those adjustments for budget against returns. But I'm perpetually bouncing between the level where I don't know what those are going to look like in a year versus 5 years, and it's like, okay, my income, my hobby, my passion, they're the same thing with this career. So fortunately, you know, I don't worry about that as much.
Thank you. I have so much to say about that. Rose, did you want to throw in? I think you went to push button. Talk to me. Do you want to speak? I want to hear. If you want to talk, I want to listen.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm tripping balls right now, so...
Welcome. Welcome, welcome. And I will say that is a fantastic space happening behind you, and your hair looks fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
You know, planet Earth is blue, but the bad news is there's nothing we can do.
So ridiculous.
Should we come back to you, or do you want to...
Yeah, come back.
All right. Well, if you feel like talking, I want to listen. In the meanwhile, here's Alex, and I'm secretly very jealous that you're tripping balls.
Yeah,
we need to have one of these where we're all tripping balls. Go ahead, Alex, I'm listening.
Maybe for clarification, like, the situation I'm usually in is I have like $200 that I can spend on leisure, whatever, and I want to put it into my creative stuff, and then I have to decide, do I want to save up for maybe a remote monitoring solution, because I need to put something with that, or do I want to maybe save up for a new synthesizer? Do I want to maybe buy a camera? Do I want to maybe buy cool clothing that I could either inspire me or that I could wear whenever I go on a stage? That's basically the idea. And of course, promotion is, if I have a project, then also something that might be important.
May I? I should turn my hand down. I've realized I'm a hand hog. I'm a hand hog. I personally think that it's worth it. I personally think that if you don't take the risk, you're going to regret it. And I personally think that part of that risk is putting your money where your mouth is and putting down the cash and saying, you know, it's really difficult because it's like when I was about to say, if it's good enough, put the money down. But the problem is that every musician thinks that their shit isn't good enough. So if you've finished it and you've got it mastered, spend some money on an advertising campaign. And for you and you only, send me the track and I'll send it to the DJs. That's you. That's not open to anyone else. That's for you. So there's a start. I can also send it to press, but I'd say don't bother. Do a Facebook campaign or an Instagram campaign or a TikTok campaign or something where you are pushing to more people. If you want to spend time, research, and I do not want to go down the TikTok rabbit hole about promotion and shit, but research how to create engaging things that might push your content, because it's worth it. I say to every human being on earth who is a musician, Your music is your ticket out of here. So whatever the situation you're in, the only thing that can save you and set you free is rock and roll, or classical, or whatever the fuck it is you do. But music will let you tour the world, will let you meet people you're never going to meet. It is music that has some profound spiritual significance that can unfuck your life and unfuck your corner of the world. So spend some money on letting other people hear it. Some people make a choice that their music is only for them. Sometimes I think those people are more enlightened than I am. I am not enlightened, and I want people to hear my music. I want people to hear my mouth shooting off about shit that I really shouldn't shoot off my mouth off about. So I'm going to spend money on advertising. I am going to do everything in my power to get more people to hear it, because you never know. There might come a point where your return on investment tips and you start making money. Yes, because your music, and I'm speaking to everyone, has a market. And between you and discovering that market, there is research and risk. Figure out who your market are, and then risk the time to go onto your Facebook or social media and say, hey, check out my shit. You might lose friends. Oh no. Risk. Put money into an advertising campaign. Research which advertising campaigns are worth it. You might lose money. Oh no. Risk. It's not a gamble. It's a risk. There's a big fucking difference. There's a bit of a gamble, but it's mainly risk. So that's what I have to say right now. Rose, I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh my god, I have so many things to say.
And you're tripping balls. Let's go.
You're gonna regret this, Carl. You're gonna regret this. No, but when it comes to things that you're passionate about, I think it's super important to understand that all you have is this one lifetime to put out there who you are and why you exist and what are the many facets of the strange and unusual cosmic being that is you, you know? And it's just, there's not a price that you can put on that, in my opinion, you know? So I think if you ever go for anything, you never half-ass it. Always the whole ass. Always. That's what I have to say. You know, if you're gonna go into it, go into it 100%, and recognize that business is a part of being an artist, just as much as creating artists. You know, and just as essentially. You know, and I think that that's something that's hard for people to accept, especially being weirdo artist types as we all are. So just accept the fact that there's a certain amount of cash that you, like, whatever those things are that you don't want to handle, that you're struggling with, and that are keeping you from putting more of your art out than you would, you know what I mean, than you have so far. Just spend it. If you have it, if you have that disposable income, like, throw those dice, you know? I think really good places to spend it are wardrobe, things that, you know, make you happy, and things that are like what you project out into the world. I think that anything that helps you do that easier, as far as like equipment or like props and lighting and stuff like that, I think you can make those, all those things are like really great to use as your goals and stuff for Kickstarters and for anything where you want other people to feel that they are a part and a parcel of building it and making it into something special and awesome. Because it's worth it. You're worth it. All of you. Every single one.
You're worth it. Thank you, Rose. Just very quickly before I throw to you, Rezzy, maybe 80% of what I do is administration. I'll go no lower than 70. 30% is making music, 20% is making music. But the rest is admin, tax. Oh, fucking never ends. It never ends. My advice is, you know that favorite show you have on Netflix? Stop watching it. Because you don't have the fucking time. I remember when I started Jekyll Switch, we pulled this guy in, and I said, so what did you use? And he said, I really want to join the band. And I went, oh, cool. What did you used to do on Saturdays? Because you just lost every Saturday from now on, man. You're rehearsing. Risk. But, you know, like Rose says, is there anything better? Sit there watching a fucking dumb shit on Netflix or making your rock and roll. Raz, go!
I'm actually starting to feel like everybody's really summed the same thing up that I could say here is the differentiating your small pools of cash into different places can be guided by a few different things, and the passion and fun and creativity and supporting things that you know. But one of the problems that I'm ever up against is that there are free ways to do all of these things, and it may take you 10 times longer or 100 times longer to do it the free method, but it's there, and that's always kind of seductive. And it's like, oh, I can maximize my budget and really just spend a month learning a technique that will help me see through a project to completion. And could have spent $50 on getting somebody else to do it who has already invested that time. So somewhere in there is your decision making, and I'm sure, Alex, you seem like a person who does consider these things ahead of time and has gone into them not blindly.
Cool. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Ivan!
As you mentioned, time and money are like basically interchangeable things, because you can either spend money or you can spend time. And you know, there will come a point though where time becomes more valuable than money. When you reach that point, just spend the money, because you're in a good spot at that time. You know, it's very easy to get trapped into, oh, I'm just going to learn another new thing. I'm going to learn another new thing. I'm going to learn another new thing. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do everything. And you just get bogged down then. That sucks.
Yeah, you can either spend, if you spend time, you save money. If you spend money, you save time. I'm trying to remember what the saying is. Money comes and goes, time just goes. But nevertheless, picking up on what Razzie said, is that there's going to be skills that you're going to need to learn. Like, sorry, Rose, just really quickly. For example, oh no, I'm going to talk about Spotify. Oh no! So Spotify have this thing where you can pitch your track. And I've said this before, to do a similar thing, yes, it's a new release thing in your upcoming music with Spotify. You get to pitch your track. And the push that gives you would pay somebody probably $500 to $1,000 to do that sort of pitch. But on Spotify, it's free. Oh, those bastards at Spotify. And it's actually, there's a lot of it involved with that are human beings who work for Spotify, who are playlist people, and they push it out. Amazon's setting up the similar thing, but it's not as good yet, but it's getting there because Amazon wants the cake. But we've talked about this before. So there's one really important thing to learn. I think YouTube is trying to do something like this as well. I don't know. Rose.
Oh, man. So many thoughts about all of those things that I can't even, I'm just like, I'm like reacting to everything. So, yes. I will just be here to react and be your puppet representation, AI-generated madness.
I think you're organically generated madness, but that's good. We are all organically generated madness.
Yes.
What did you want to say?
I forgot, so I'm lowering my hand now. I can't even remember it.
Put it in the chat, and we'll prompt you. Could I request that more people jump onto these very, very stoned, please? Because this would be much more interesting. I'm really appreciating it. Alex.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think I would be a total mess. But I just wanted to say on Spotify, I think what people critique Spotify for is not that they do nothing for artists or that the artists shouldn't use it, but that Spotify itself should do more for artists. I just wanted to clarify that. I think that's an important distinction.
Thank you for that clarification. To my understanding, if you watch the Spotify streams and everything else, Spotify are trying. Okay, for example, your stuff is going to get organically discovered on Spotify. On most social media, it does not. Spotify, it is in their best interest to have people playing your tracks, because yes, they're taking money from your plays, but they want your music played, and they do not like Apple. Some streaming services. I just don't know if I have the energy for this. Get on Spotify. Stop being a whiny little bitch. Get on fucking Spotify. Because your fans are on Spotify. And your fans want to listen. Your fans might not be on Deezer or whatever it's called. They might not be on SoundCloud. What the fuck is with SoundCloud? I get nothing from SoundCloud. You know, all of those fucking radio DJ things? I don't get a goddamn cent from SoundCloud. And I've looked into SoundCloud's monetization. You want to talk to me about scam? That's fucking bullshit.
I don't think the site is for that. Like, I think the best thing for SoundCloud is to just put something up there as advertising for the stuff that brings in money. I think that's like, or maybe to get ideas across.
Yeah, but
way to use it.
my problem with SoundCloud is that when a DJ goes, I made my DJ set, here it is on SoundCloud, it's like, look, that's great, but how about you also do a playlist on Spotify or on Amazon Music or on iMusic? That doesn't cost you anything to do that. And if you set up a playlist, people have the opportunity to go and find your music. Yes, I know, it's fucked. Yes, it's a corporation, and corporations are inherently evil. Yes, I know this. But as far as all of the... It's the better of two evils. Like, fuck. Your audience are there, and they want to listen to you. Some people, a lot of people... Breaking news. Most people don't have expendable income. I know, right? That's why they listen to Spotify, 'cause it's free. Most people, although they really want to support you, they can't afford to buy your album on Bandcamp. They can't afford it. So let them listen to your album on free on Spotify and encourage them. Say, hey man, if you don't have the money to buy my Bandcamp, listen on Spotify, listen on Amazon, listen on bloody whatever. Give people the right to... I have a stick up my ass about everything. Everything. And I do have a stick up my ass about Spotify. I fucking hate Spotify. For all this shit, I hate it. But that's where people... That's the drinking fountain where people are going to drink from. It's the bubbler or the water spritzer, whatever you want to call it, the fountain that they're going to drink from. See, this is the whole thing. All right, I'm going into a rant. Why is Coca-Cola the biggest soft drink in the world? Because it's right there. Everywhere you go, there's a vending. The best thing Coke ever did, they bought vending machines. And then they put a vending machine everywhere. Why don't they call it coffee anymore and they call it Starbucks? Because Starbucks is right there. This is the thing. I want you to remember this, that, you know, when you look at these smaller streaming services that are paying artists more, great. I love it. I love it so much. It's great. But the problem is, they're way the fuck over there. They're not in your face like Spotify, like all of these other things. And yes, Spotify is paying less per stream, but I've said this a million times. Spotify is playing... If my music would never ever get played on a radio station. Ever. And most radio stations, they've got a reach of 500,000 people. So if my one song gets played on that radio station that plays to 500,000 or millions of people or 500,000 people, I will get $20 probably in royalties for having my track played. $20. If my track gets played 500,000 times on Spotify, that would be yielding me over $3,000. Yep. 500,000 plays would put a month, in a month. And I'm assuming that my one track on the radio got played only once. So if my one play on Spotify is 500,000 over the course of a month. And for me, that's what it comes back to, is that this is radio now, and people fucking in the 80s used to bitch and complain about radio to the cows come home. But the thing about it is that, yes, there are DJs still who are curating song lists. And for some of those people, you have to pay to get on that song list. But when you're talking, although they're not supposed to do that, incidentally, and Spotify have, they've point blank said if you're paying for a playlist, that's against Spotify's codes of conduct, and you can report them and they get flicked. Anyway, so get your music out there. Alex, tell me I'm wrong.
First of all, yeah, I think payola is always the problem with music. But I wanted to say, I suppose you're not in favor in a method that some people use is to delay their streaming service release, and it's usually a month after the physical release, in order to get people to buy the physical album or the digital album.
I will say that's a good idea. And Razzie, I do see your hand. I'm going to throw to you. It's a really excellent idea. But my argument is people in our genre don't care. People in our genre are going to support you. And that is yet another awesome thing about our genre, is that people will support you. Razzie.
I know how many spins I've had at club and radio over the decades, and I've never gotten an ASCAP or BMI scan for performance royalties. I've signed up, I've looked into it every few years, it comes back to me. Whereas once streaming came in, I was consistently getting small, but logged and tallied and paid for and taxable royalties. I mean, the stream works. It's an evolution in that way. So, bury, praise, whatever, but streaming does have, for some of us, a clear benefit. And that's it.
I thank you. Also with streaming, you can tell exactly who your demographic are.
Countries and towns. And
yeah,
for sure.
And that is the most valuable information you can ever have. I'm going to experiment with and my streaming. I haven't paid for any of that. I haven't paid for a cent of that. I've got it by annoying people on social medias and linking to things on social medias and researching how to do these pitch things. Free. Yes, I was lucky, fortunate, blessed that I came to the game with a brand that a couple of people knew. But since streaming and stuff has happened, Angelspit's grown 4 times. 4 times. And that's reflected in sales and everything else, except playing live. Because that's an issue that I have to deal with. Anyway, so just look, everybody hates Coca-Cola. They're a terrible corporation. But if you stick your pop, soda, Coke in one of their vending machines, yes, they're going to take a big cut of that. But you're going to sell Cokes or Pops or Sprite or soda or whatever you call it, or soft drinks. It's the same if you want to get your stuff in a shop. Like a Sephora, you're selling makeup and you want to get your stuff in Sephora. Dude, they're taking way more than 50%, but they're getting it in a lot of people's faces. And they've worked fucking hard to get it in people's faces. So, that's what I got. Yeah, so just stop this Spotify bitching. Just stop it. Yeah. Anybody else want to talk? Alex, you wanted to talk about something funny and light. Wow, go ahead.
Off the topic, even multiply that difference between performance royalties versus streaming royalties is the fact that people routinely pay more than the asking price on Bandcamp for songs and ownership of the files rather than streaming them. I can't believe it's true, and it's an amazing fact, but fans are amazingly motivated over there.
And they will also, I think Bandcamp is setting up a streaming thing as well. And I think even if people buy your stuff on Bandcamp, they will still listen to it on Spotify. So, or Amazon, or whatever they're doing. Alex!
I would have another topic if you would be interested.
Sure.
So there's this I was on Twitter before it was about Elon Musk, and got advertising by a company called Fansly, which is basically a site like, how is it called, OnlyFans. But in their posts they advertise themselves for creatives.
What's it called?
And if you look at their site, it's still very sex worker focused.
All right.
I thought about the idea to join this site instead of Patreon. Just I'm not ready for that, but in theory, I found that idea very interesting. And maybe you have some thoughts on this.
I haven't. Can you throw the URL? The URL.
Again, it's like mostly sex work, or maybe some sexy cosplay pics or something like that.
Like me.
Yeah, right. But I thought the idea interesting that they had also. I don't know. Maybe I would be worried that I take away space from sex workers on their platform, but maybe it's also just something fun, because maybe people just follow you because you're not what everyone else does. And at least from some YouTube videos I've seen, it has also a sort of discovery feature.
Okay.
This was basically my idea.
Because Kickstarter is also trying to do a monthly Patreon-esque thing. This is very interesting because I am hearing and I am finding that Patreon is declining. Patreon sort of had its wave thing, and I don't know. I'm just finding that people are not interested in Patreon anymore. So if there is another thing, that might be interesting to look into, because Patreon also changed their pricing policies that I don't think were beneficial to artists. It's that conversation again. Razzie, I see your hand.
I was just going to add that Patreon's another place where people can actually pay you more than your asking price and sort of start giving a feel for the goodness of fandoms. And Alex, you sort of alluded to the network effect, where there's actually some discovery component to the thing that you're going to bother putting time into, in exchange for you becoming content for them to get eyeballs on. That seems like a pretty good deal. If it actually works, that you can either effectively hashtag your shit or have some sort of algorithmic, smarts behind the scene that you don't even have to prompt with your own connections and links that you think up. Man, use that. That sounds valuable. I mean, even if you're not doing it just as a goof, but there's no rule that this is strictly tits or get the fuck out. It's get on there, and maybe you are going to flash. Who knows? But I think it's an interesting angle to commandeer, undermine, take over, and these sites are out there to make money. Let's face it. I mean, yes, it's good to respect the community, and if they are against it, sure, get the hell out. But
and if flashing doesn't work, cosplay Asuka Tano. That always works for me. Always. Because Asuka's...
They specifically say on the site that they also welcome people doing art and music, so I think otherwise I wouldn't even have considered it.
Those people...
It's a bit unusual because you still have to make a photo with your idea and your head to show that you're not being sex trafficked or whatever. Which is good, but it's still unusual for someone who isn't used to that.
Check it out. Might be interesting. Might have a better pay thing. I think I've heard a lot of people talking about. Hold on, who does this? The 70% rev split? Yep, the site does a 70%. Who does the 70% rev split? Is that Patreon? I don't know. Wolf Raven in Twitch just said something very interesting. Also Twitch as well, but they're 50%. They take a 50% cut. Anyway, so yeah, it's all right. So Fanslide takes 70-30 cut. I'd be interested to know what Patreon is. Yeah. So yeah, check that shit out or don't. But remember, people want to support you, and Kickstarter is doing a long-term thing as well, which I should look into. And so does Bandcamp. Bandcamp has a monthly subscriber thing, I think.
Yeah.
I could be lying right now. That could be worth looking into, actually, because I just spent half the session bad-mouthing Bandcamp. Yeah.
But you also mentioned going to where your fans are and being accessible in those places, and I think it's important to do that with your own integrity and something that you enjoy doing. And if Fanslead has the tools that you want to represent what you're doing, and certainly if it's got the community aspect of discovery, that seems like
I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's good. Now, this is a really good question to ask.
try it and don't be afraid to move on. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like these are small investments. Usually there's no upfront other than your time, which I guess is a different discussion that we just had.
And also remember that if you're going to set up a thing for a Fansly, you could then take that same information, photos, etc., ideas, and put them into a Patreon or put it into the Bandcamp thing. If anybody wants to make around with this stuff, I'd love to hear how it goes. I do know of some people who have several things going. Yeah. This is where I recommend the VC Crad community. Yes. And I think you can also set up a Discord where people subscribe to it. I think. But I don't know. No. Oh, Alex, go.
I think people have a perk on Patreon that you have access to a Discord like you have, but I don't think they are paid Discords.
No, there are. Midjourney's a paid Discord. There are a few that are paid subscriber-based Discords. All Discord servers are free. Thank you. Okay, looks like I'm wrong on that one. Wow. Anyway, look. Does anybody else want to bring up anything else? Because this is all very interesting. Oh, we're done. Oh, well, to set up anyway. Dude, seriously? I don't know. We have to look into it. This is about the Discords being... Damn it, Rose went. Yeah, free. I think you can have a subscriber base, but I could be totally wrong. Look, does anybody else want?
There are paid Discords now. They
There
actually just
are?
announced it like 2 or 3 days ago.
Okay. Somebody, what's this? Okay, can I post this? The from the
Paid Discord.
All right. Boom. Paid Discord right there. This is fascinating. If anybody else doesn't want to bring anything else up, I'm going to close this thing. We're going to raid to MTV TV. Diana, I'm raiding. If you can hear me. Diana. Boom. Apparently we're raiding right now. I don't know. I think we've just lost Diana. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Go watch MTV TV. Because it's seriously brilliant. And I'm just going to put up the title screen and we're going to wave goodbye. Bye. Bye. We're going to hang around here and chat for a while. Bye. Bye. Bye.